Do you ever feel socially behind? Like everyone else has bigger friend groups, better support systems, and a more vibrant social life. I think social media oftentimes distorts our perception of how other people live and what their social lives look like behind the screen. I'm the prime example of that. I host events for a living. I talk about connection online. Today I want to show you that things aren't always as they seem. So here are a few things about my social life that you wouldn't be jealous of me for. For the longest time, I felt like I never belonged anywhere. During high school, I was briefly part of different friend groups, but I always felt like the odd one out. And especially in my last 2 years of high school, I was heavily bullied by the very people that used to be my friends. It wasn't until I was in my mid to late 20s that I finally felt like I was attracting aligned people. And as it so often is, that happened right when I was already about to give up on friendships altogether. The second one is moving and rebuilding alone. I moved cities 3 times and countries twice within the last 10 years, so I naturally had to rebuild my entire social life from scratch 3 separate times. I don't come from a large family and don't live near the one I have. And of course, I couldn't just take my friends that I had made in certain places with me every time I moved. So most major life decisions and transitions I essentially had to do without anyone by my side. Anything from building furniture to figuring out how to get a new phone contract in a different language. And I'm not gonna lie, there were long stretches during those times, especially during the pandemic, where I felt really alone and lost. Number 3 is friendship breakups. Everyone always talks about romantic breakups, but I feel like no one really talks about how horrible friendship breakups can be. As someone with the tendency to overgive, I feel like I overstayed a few friendships, not because I didn't see the signs, because it can be genuinely hard for me to let someone go once I've let them into my life. The next one is still feeling behind, and this one is probably the hardest to admit. I'm turning 30 this year, and I still sometimes compare myself to friends who are getting engaged, buying their first houses, reaching huge career goals, while I still feel like I'm figuring out so much of life in real time. And finally, because I host events, I think sometimes people think I'm naturally social and outgoing, but my host personality and my actual personality are 2 very different things. I become overstimulated very quickly and need a lot of alone time to recharge. So most of my days I actually spend by myself. And whenever I get thrown into a big group of people that I don't know, I get incredibly socially awkward, which would probably genuinely surprise you if you've only ever seen me as a host. I'm not sharing all of this for pity or sympathy, but because I want to show you that the gap between how people present themselves and what they actually live is so much larger than many of us would admit. And that gap is where a lot of unnecessary shame lives. Now I'm curious to hear from you. What is something people wouldn't assume about your social life?